You are 19 years old and your hands smell like beef fat, and you are already 40 minutes into a shift that started before the sun came up. And the thing you cannot explain to anyone who has not stood behind this particular grill, in this particular parking lot, on East Huntington Drive in San Bernardino, California, is that what Richard and Mac McDonald have built here is not a restaurant, it is a clock, and you are one of its gears, and if you slip, the whole mechanism shudders. The year is 1956. You know this not because it means anything yet, but because you wrote it on the back of your pay stub to remind yourself you are young enough that this job is temporary, that you are just earning until something better opens up, that flipping burgers for two brothers who time your every movement with an actual stopwatch is not your destiny. That is what you tell yourself. That is the lie you carry into every shift. But here is what you also know. You know that before you started here, you worked the counter at a diner on Baseline where the cook took 20 minutes to make a sandwich and nobody complained because nobody expected anything different. You know that your mother packed your school lunches, and some days the bread was stale, and some days the mustard was too thick, and it never occurred to you or anyone you knew that food could be something else. Something governed by precision, the way engineering is governed by precision. Something repeatable, something perfect, not once, but every single time. That diner on Baseline was chaos, dressed in an apron. This place is something else entirely. The McDonald brothers mapped the kitchen on a tennis court. You heard Mac tell that story twice, how they drew out every station in chalk, had the employees walk through it like actors on a stage, moved the milkshake machine 6 inches to the left, because 6 inches was the difference between a smooth pass and a bottleneck. You thought it was eccentric when you heard it. You stopped thinking it was eccentric the first week you worked here, when you realized that the layout meant you never crossed paths with the fry station, and the fry station never crossed paths with the register, and the register never waited more than 45 seconds for anything. It was not a kitchen. It was a theorem. This morning you arrive, and Donnie, who usually opens, has called in sick, and Richard pulls you aside before you have even tied your apron and says he needs you to run the floor alone for the lunch rush. Not shadowed, not supervised, alone. And you nod, because you are 19 and you need this job, and you have memorized every step of the Speedee Service System, the way other kids your age memorize baseball statistics. You know the grill temperature. You know the flip time exactly when the gray creep up the side of the patty tells you the bottom is ready. You know the portion of fries weighed to the quarter ounce on the small metal scale that sits to your left and that you are not allowed to eyeball under any circumstance. You know that a customer should receive their order in under 60 seconds, that the bag should be handed through the window with both hands and a short verbal confirmation of the order, that you do not linger, that you do not chat, that the goal is not friendliness. It is throughness, getting people fed and back in their cars and satisfied enough to come back on Saturday. This is what you do. This is what you are good at. You do not yet know that being good at this will matter. The morning goes smoothly. In the way that mornings go smoothly, when you are too busy to notice how smoothly they are going, you flip, you bag, you call out orders. The scale never lies. The grill never forgives a distracted second. You are in the rhythm of it, the particular physical grammar of the Speedee system, and somewhere around 11:15, you feel something close to pride, which is strange because pride in flipping hamburgers is not something you planned on feeling at 19. But here it is anyway, quiet and specific. Then a customer does not leave. This is the thing. This is the small thing you notice and almost dismiss. Most customers take their bags, unwrap their burgers on the hood of their cars, and are back on the road inside of 10 minutes. That is the design. That is the point. Eat fast, eat consistent, eat cheap, go back to your life. The parking lot is not a dining room. It is a throughway. And so when you glance out during a brief gap between orders and see the man in the gray suit sitting in his car with the window down, not eating but watching the window, watching your hands, watching the bag come out and the car pull away and the next car pull in, you file it as odd and return to the grill because the grill does not tolerate distraction. He is still there 40 minutes later. He has moved. He is standing now outside his car, closer to the window, holding his cup and watching the operation the way a man watches something he is trying to reverse engineer in his head. He is maybe 50, or close to it. His shoes are clean. His suit is the kind of suit that costs more than your weekly pay. He is not from San Bernardino. Not in that suit. You hand 3 bags out the window and take 2 new orders, and you are thinking about the fry station when Richard appears behind you and says, quietly, "That man asked to speak with whoever is running the grill today." And you say, "That is me." And Richard looks at you in a way that is not quite worry and not quite pride and says, "Then go talk to him when the rush clears." And keep it short. The rush does not clear so much as it breathes. A small exhale between the lunch wave and the mid-afternoon lull, and you step out of the window and walk to the parking lot, and the man in the gray suit extends his hand and says his name is Ray Kroc, that he sells milkshake machines, that he sold the McDonald brothers, 6 of them, that he had heard they were running all 6 at capacity during peak hours and could not believe it until he drove out here from Chicago to see it himself. He says he watched you work for over an hour. He says he has been in food service his whole career. He says he has never seen anything like this. You are standing in a parking lot in San Bernardino, and a man you have never met is looking at you like you are evidence of something. He starts asking questions. How long have you worked here? Who trained you? How do you maintain the timing during surge periods? What happens when 2 orders come in simultaneously at the same station? You answer honestly, because there is nothing to hide. Because the system is the system, and it is not a secret, it is a discipline. And as you answer, you watch something shift in his expression, something that is less like a man learning and more like a man deciding. He asks if the brothers have thought about other locations. You say you don't know. He asks if anyone has tried to replicate this system elsewhere. You say not that you know of. He is quiet for a moment, and in that quiet, you hear the grill through the window, and you know you should go back, and you know something is happening here that you do not have the language for yet. And Ray Kroc puts his business card in your hand and says you have a talent, son, that most men go their whole lives without knowing they have, and that he hopes you will still be here when things move forward. And you ask what things? And he smiles and says, the next chapter. You go back to the grill. You flip at exactly the right second. You weigh the fries to the 1/4 ounce. You bag the order and pass it through the window. You do not stop working. You do not know what just happened. 3 weeks later, Richard pulls you aside before a shift and tells you that Ray Kroc has proposed a deal, that he wants to franchise the system, to take what the brothers built here on this lot and replicate it in other cities, other states, other markets, that there have been phone calls and lawyers involved, and that the numbers are serious. He says the brothers are uncertain. He says Kroc is not. He says that Kroc has asked specifically whether you would be willing to help train new operators, whether you would be willing to travel, whether you would be willing to be part of whatever this becomes. Your shift starts in 4 minutes. The grill is already up to temperature. The scale is calibrated. The fry station is prepped. Richard looks at you and says, "You don't have to decide anything today, but you should know he asked about you by name." You go in. You work the shift. But something is different now. A frequency has changed. Because the thing you built yourself into the gear, the mechanism, the steady, reliable element of a system designed for precision has been seen, not by the people who designed the system, by someone who looked at the system and saw something else entirely, something scalable, something that could exist not in one parking lot in California, but in every parking lot, on every street, in every city in a country that is just now beginning to move fast enough to need exactly this. And the question you cannot answer yet is whether you are ready to move with it. The scale is on your left. The grill is in front of you. The stopwatch in Richard's pocket still clicks. You flip the patty at exactly the right second, because that is what you know how to do. Because the discipline is real, and the precision matters, and you are good at this. And being good at something is not always enough to tell you what it means. But the card is in your pocket. Ray Kroc's card. Chicago phone number. Clean white stock. You weigh the fries. You bag the order. You pass it through the window with both hands and a short verbal confirmation. The car pulls away. The next car pulls in. The parking lot smells like beef, fat, and exhaust and something else. Something that does not have a name yet, but will. Something that will one day be printed on paper cups and stamped on napkins and lit up in red and yellow on signs so tall they can be seen from the freeway. Something that will exist in countries whose names you can barely locate on a map. Something that will feed more people more consistently than any food operation that has ever existed in human history. Right now, it is just a burger joint in San Bernardino. Right now, you are just the 19-year-old behind the grill. Right now, the next car is pulling in, and you have 58 seconds. You get to work.